Welcome to another edition of the Civ Battle Royale. My name is Dawkinzz, and this is episode 32, Sniper No Sniping. In a world of stalemates, bloodshed, and war, the Aztecs continue to shitpost. Starting on turn 570, let's get right into this. Welcome one and all to the Civilization Battle Royale X, episode 32. I am your host for this installment, user and resident shitposter, user Shade of Borg. Those of you from the Mark II days may remember my attempt to force a meme about deleting Brazil until many took pity on me and laughed at the unfunny joke. Past narrators would tell you that they are power rankers and mod creators, but personally, I'm just a shitposter with just too much free time on my hands. With that said, let's get started. This week's OC is an appropriately titled shitpost to honor the Seljuks by user Anarcho Balkan. They died as they lived. Sadly. As is tradition, here is Varian's hand-drawn map of the cylinder. I always enjoy seeing this every week. Comparing the maps is a great way to remind myself how different things are week to week. Here we see the greatest extent map of the HRE by user The Honesty Fish. It's a shame how small a territory they covered considering the potential the HRE had. What a twist! Well, not really. Uruguay stay at the number one spot this week for reasons that consist entirely of teching up and not much else. Somebody wake them up already. We start this part not by looking at war, but diplomacy. Here we see the Tongu proposing to make Bogomilism the one true religion. Meanwhile, the Iroquois want to pile on the embargo train by cockblocking the Nazca. It's unlikely the Gu will get their way, but everyone loves a good embargo. The Nazca have Tongalelka and look like they'll be hanging onto it for a while. While I like the Tonga, I'm afraid Tonga time will soon come to an end. I see a single Tongo submarine in this picture, and I don't think they have much else aside from that. A helicopter is damaged by a plane? Here we see a collection of Yupik units trapped in the icy north of Alaska, surrounded by many neutral units who think the Métis are mean bullies that should stop picking on their neighbor. Also, Tul Kasak has taken damage. I'm not sure if that's relevant, I just want to make Dawkinz's life harder. Thanks. War were declared. Prussia declares on Palmyra by sending a bomber to blow up a frigate. I'm not sure where the plane launched from, but evidently has a long range. Speaking of units, I love the strange time displacement in this slide. We have 18th century riflemen next to 21st century paratroopers, while 20th century artillery is used by 25th century power armor, all while a 21st century helicopter guards a 17th century boat that was just bombed by a 20th century plane into the Stone Age. What a world the cylinder is. Looking at the main front, we see that Brno is already bombed into the black by the 10 aircraft in Ostrava. While Palmyra has a good variety of units, Prussia has more paratroopers, meaning it will be easier for them to get into Palmyran territory. Also note the cavalry unit that desperately needs to be upgraded. Prussia continues to bomb some random area in the north of the cylinder, but a Métis paratrooper might be able to capture the empty space, assuming Australia gets out of the way. We now go to the Shikoku Corps and see their impressive carpet, the cherry, of course, being their new Nexus. Now all they have to do is build more probes and... wait, wrong game. Venezuela decides to relieve the Nazca of some land by citadeling right up to the Nazcan city of Topara. The Nazca may be focused on the Tonga, but they should not forget their continental neighbors and the threat Venezuela possesses. It looks like the Haida and the Yupik are at war, although I'm not sure who declared on who. Regardless, Tanu is in the red, but is being guarded by a small fleet of units. Meanwhile, Kasagluk is in the yellow, and the Yupik capital Niutak is blockaded and doesn't have many defenders aside from the many peacekeepers. Things are not looking good for them. Also, it looks like Prussia and the Goth are at war, now based on the damage their paratroopers are taking. Good for them. Prussia's attempts to shoot at an empty ice patch continue to prove futile, while a purple ghost ship takes on one of their carriers, and the angry spirits seem to attack Elbing. Meanwhile, several Australians complain about the cold. Casakluk has been captured, and while those two Yupik destroyers might flip it back, I doubt they'll hold it. The Yupik's navy is rapidly evaporating as the Haida push in. We see here that the Goths and Prussia are indeed at war with each other as Goth paratroopers fly into Prussian lands, and Potsdam is now in the black. I predict this city will flip many times in the foreseeable future. I'm also told that New Zealand declared on Prussia. Good for them. When the Goths are at war, do they just listen to the Cure to pump them up? While no cities have been exchanged yet, I think that's about to change. Palmyra has a single melee unit amongst a crap ton of rocket artillery, while Prussia still has a small carpet of paratroopers. If they capture Ostrava, then they will probably hang on to it. Venezuela now has aircraft carriers, and it and Uruguay are hosting some injured Prussian units that are being bombarded by New Zealand. While Venezuela has no hope against the Gwei, they could still put up a fight. Meanwhile, the Nazca declare on Beta Israel. Also, Poverty Point still has units somewhere. Good for them. Tongolika is still under control of the Nazca, but the Tonga refuse to accept that Tonga time is over. As an air battle rages above Havalaloto, the Tonga Navy goes on the offensive, and the Iroquois join the coalition against Beta Israel. Since the last slide, Palmyra and Madagascar are at war. Nizwa looks primed to fall, and considering it's an isolated enclave far from any good reinforcements, it will stay Palmyran. Or is it an exclave? We should ask Finland. As predicted, Potsdam is captured, but I'm actually not sure how often it will flip. Prussia has a single weak mechanized infantry to take it, and the other Prussian units on this slide are ranged. It will be very interesting to see how this war plays out. Prussia has taken Ostrava from Palmyra, but a Palmyran power-armored infantry will probably take it back within a couple of turns. Meanwhile, Uruguayan peacekeepers are forming a wall across Palmyran lands. It's like Hands Across America, except more like the movie Us. Louis Riel is still providing his people with the best guns available. Of note is that Uruguay is 4th on the ranking, behind Zimbabwe and the Tongu. Perhaps the Gwei is not as strong as we thought. The Goth capital of Arheimer has taken damage, probably from some off-screen planes, but they still have a good carpet for defense, regardless of how their war with Prussia goes. The Goth capital won't fall anytime soon. The Haida Navy is bombarding the Yupik capital of Nuuktak, while further north, Karolik is in the red. Shade of Borg. You can go to hell. While the presence of peacekeepers will prevent the Haida from conquering the Bering Strait, it's clear that the Yupik are doomed to become a rump state. Beta Israel's current capital, Dabat, is in the yellow, but I have no idea if it will fall. Considering half the cylinder is at war with them, it could be anyone's capture. Meanwhile, the Yupik and the Métis make peace, although I'm not sure if any cities were given away. The Métis have found the source of the northern ghosts and are ready to wipe them out. At the same time, they want to make the map makers cry. Zimbabwe joins the coalition against Prussia, and a stealth bomber blows something up in the middle of the Pacific. The declaration won't amount to much aside from a few ocean skirmishes, but it's the thought that counts. Also, the Iroquois build the Bionic Tower, which I guess would be kind of like a bionic longhouse, which causes the unhappiness and food consumption of specialists to be reduced by half. Prussia continues to push forward since taking Ostrava and look ready to lay siege to Constantine, despite its myriad of defenders. Palmyra really screwed the pooch on this war. Meanwhile, the Ottomans look on with admiration and fear. While they are doing well against Palmyra, the Goth-Prussian War is at a stalemate as the soldiers fight each other among the pillaged ruins of the Prussian farmland. A lone unit of Palmyran-powered armor infantry has been sent to help their Goth allies, and potentially snipe a city when they're not looking. A similar situation is occurring in the Tonga-Nazca War. Nazca still hold Tongolelka, Because of the Goth paratrooper, I bet, while their respective navies continue to duke it out. Nuktak has been captured by the Haida and will probably remain in their grasp. As I said before, the further gains will be hampered by the peacekeepers, but the Yupik are essentially finished. Meanwhile, a Métis airship is upset that peace was declared before it could take a city. Also, the Métis make peace with the Sami. Good for them. The Prussian countryside has been pillaged, burned, while Potsdam is in the black after being recaptured. There is not a single Goth unit in range to take the city again, but that doesn't mean they can't do a scorched earth campaign. The Haida-Yupik war reached a standstill as Canton peacekeepers clog any land route the Haida have to Tunanuk. Both cities are taking damage, but with every tile full of peacekeepers, I can't see anything else happening this war. Looking over the Goth-Parthia border, we see that the Goths still have a good carpet. However, a revolution has occurred somewhere in the cylinder, and what capital was retaken? The Yupik will not accept their fate as a rump and counterattack the Haida by retaking their capital. Nuktak is surrounded by enemy units, but the Yupik refuse to simply turn over and die. Prussian PAI, I got tired of typing the name and saying it all out, Power Armored Infantry, tears apart Goth artillery while it looks like Potsdam was flipped again. Nové has also taken some damage, but based on the amount of units here, I can't see anything but endless flipping for the foreseeable future. New Zealand finds this boring, so decides to peace out of the war. A look at the Northern Moor Corps. Hey, that rhymes. Shows us that the Moors really need to get rid of those peacekeepers and build an actual army. The Métis take pity on their lack of pointy sticks and make peace. Meanwhile, the Iroquois build the Shimizu Mega City Pyramid, which not only eliminates the building maintenance in the city it was built in, but also causes autoplants and drone hives to produce +2 happiness. Good for them. I hope they don't raise anything ever again. Hiawatha continues to make wonders, and he has not 1, but 2 this time. Sky City improves the food, gold, and happiness produced by vertical farms, and it also creates a vertical farm in the city it was built. The Buenos Aires Forum starts the Golden Age and increases the length by 50%. On the slide itself, we see the continuing meat grinder of the Goth-Prussian War. Next. Slightly further south, Potsdam flips again as Vladimir takes damage. Potsdam might stay Prussian because of the peacekeepers, and there is not a single Prussian unit within the Goths' borders. I want to be excited for this war, but it's just hard to get invested in a stalemate. The Kamlag Khanate decides to send the Qin a present, in the form of a missile aimed at Handan. While Qin do have a full carpet, most of it is cavalry units, which are not very effective at this point in the game. I'm also told that Uruguay has declared on the Qin as a show of support. Good for them. The Khanate also have an irritably high number of cavalry units, one of which is about to face off against a Qin power armor infantry. All the cities shown have 10 planes, missiles each, and each civ has a full carpet. I predict another meat grinder. Meanwhile, Hiawatha has been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, and decided to name his newest wonder after his favorite weapon. The Ultimate Tower adds 2 more citizens in every city. Presumably, they are incentivized with a free copy of Final Fantasy. Now, Shade of Borg mentions Final Fantasy IV, but I think he's mistaken because he didn't write 6 or 7, which are arguably the best Final Fantasies. At another front of the Qin Khanate War, we see that the city of Yin has been bombed and blasted to the black. It could also be flipped next turn, assuming there's a Khanate melee unit out of sight. Evidently, there is not a melee unit to take Yin, but the same cannot be said for Mukden, which is in the red and surrounded by paratroopers. I predict it will fall by next turn. The Haida recaptured Nungtak, and I am told that Yupik made peace, which explains how the Haida have Karaluluk. I'm not sure if any other cities were traded, but regardless of this, war devastated the Yupik, and with only a handful of frozen cities left, I can guarantee that they are finished.
Aztec fight off cowardly Apache and still live. Aztec will triumph over all.
In the southern front of the Khanate-Chin War, we see that the two civs are having a friendly game of bomb the shit out of the enemy cities without moving your units. The Iroquois continue to be wonderful and make some floating islands. They provide extra culture and gold from ocean tiles and cause atolls to produce extra culture, gold, food, and production. Neat. The Chin have taken Mukden, and it looks like they are the ones on the offensive, despite the Khanate starting the war. Poor jerks. However, the Khanate still have a good carpet, so it will be a while before any real progress will be made here. Now, I know we've been begging the Khanate to wake up because they are pretty much like Yakusha from Mark II, but this isn't what we had in mind. Wake up and actually fight and do something. Don't go on the defensive immediately. Despite being several miles from the front, the Khanate cities of Ararkin and Barlas are being bombed. Without units to actually capture them, this is useless though. If only there was some type of missile unit that also damaged enemy ground units, as well as cities. No way! Uruguay has decided that the best way to win a war is by trolling your allies and sniping a city that was taken by a common enemy. The Chin will probably flip it again, but that was one cheeky move by the Gui. The Khanate flip Yin, but with all the Chin units nearby, I doubt it will be theirs for long. Mukden is already surrounded by Chin soldiers and probably won't be in Uruguay's hands by next turn. Prussia continues to defend Bromberg as the Goths go on the offensive. There's a chance the city will flip a few times, but there's honestly not that much else to say. The Khanate city of Daegu is in the red, and the Chin try to take it for themselves. I know I sound like a broken record by this point, but with the sheer size of their respective carpets, this war is doomed to be a meat grinder for a while. The Chin capital of Zhanyang, this part will cause Dawkinzz to have an aneurysm, is, like all the cities in this war, being bombed to hell. Luckily for Yingjiang, his home is defended by two choke points that are being gallantly fortified by cavalry. Seriously, they have airships, paratroopers, and power-armored infantry, but still have dudes on horses. Meanwhile, a Uruguay mutant hides in a lake, waiting for the time to snipe the Chin's capital. Is he the toxic Avenger? Come on, OC, don't let me down. Speaking of city snipes, Palmyra nabs Vladimir before Prussia does. Unlike Mukden, however, Palmyra might actually keep the city, assuming Prussia doesn't screw up and let their soldiers die. The Chin take Mukden again, and Uruguay has no units for another snipe. It was fun while it lasted. Prussia, you had one job. Well, the Goths have Vladimir again, which has had the majority of its people slaughtered. Prussia has made peace with Nazca, and blah 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 blah. I really don't like this war. The Goths have taken Bromberg, but the Prussians have more than enough power-armored infantry to retake it. While I admit to not liking this war very much, I have to give the Goths credit on good uses of the paratrooper IE, dropping them down to snipe cities while the enemy is not looking. Daegu has survived the Chin assault, but like all the other cities in the way, it looks like it can be captured with a single unit, even the cavalry. The Chin Khanate armies continue to slaughter each other in hopes of getting the upper hand. Also note a peace deal on the sidebar. New Zealand gets 2 new cities from their peace deal with the Selknam, which happen to be the 2 cities that were not in danger of falling. Selknam now only have a couple of cities left. All New Zealand has to do now is fill up their new lands with units before the blue giant above decides that they aren't worth the effort. We also see another important peace deal, this time between Prussia and Palmyra. Good for them. I don't like seeing the Selknam like this. Why? The Maratha have decided that they hate the Lord of the Rings and plan to take out their anger on Beta Israel by attacking the Shire. Hopefully, the One Ring is already on its way to Mount Doom. Meanwhile, the Tongu make peace with Prussia. The mutants have emerged from their hiding spot to help the Khanate defend the city of Telengut. While there is a real possibility for it to be flipped, there is also enough units to hold the Qin back. Let's see how this goes. Prussia takes Vladimir again and are going to retake Bromberg. More interestingly, Beta Israel has completed the Manhattan Project. They can't really do anything with it, but good for them. The Khanate flips Mukden again, and it looks like the Qin are being pushed back, thanks in no small part to the Manx? Daegu still stands, but a Qin power-armored infantry looks to change that. What's more interesting, however, is the giant death robots that Shikoku has built, perhaps the only thing that can equal the cavalry. Qin has Yin, but any reinforcements for the 3 troops will have to find a way around the Manx peacekeepers. If the Khanate is able to get it, then Yin will stay theirs for a long time. Meanwhile, the Khanate are pushing towards Lanzhou with the assistance from a Uruguayan bio-soldier. Will we see another snipe? The Kamag Khanate Corps, despite taking some damage from faraway planes, is looking pretty scary. The Khanate still has a full carpet, and with the Qin constantly being blocked by peacekeepers, I can see things going very well for the Khan. The Qin have captured another city, although I'm not sure which one it was. Aside from that, not much has changed here, but
Venezuela and Uruguay make mistake of attacking Aztec. All will fall.
Prussia has finally stopped dropping bombs on a random patch of snow and found a city there. The Ghosts are not happy about it. Also, the Manx and Qin team up on the Métis. Good for them. The Goths flip Bromberg and hang on to Vladimir. Army is still equal, lots of peacekeepers, the usual things. Moving on.
Aztecs accept Yupik's sacrifice of cities and allow Yupik to claim city, while Aztec ascend and win all battle royale. Aztec always strongest. F to all other civs.
We end this part to see who is the most happy on the cylinder. With all their wonders, I don't think it's a surprise that the Iroquois have almost 800 sources of happiness. Good of them. With that, I bid you all farewell and hope you enjoyed this installment of the CBRX. I had a great time narrating, and I'd like to thank Blue Cassette for letting me finally be a narrator, and Dawkinzz for being willing to say all these stupid names and dumb jokes. Once again, I am user Shade of Borg, and I am signing out. And this is Dawkinzz. I'm sorry for all the swear words, but here I am, and I'm happy you joined us. So please like and subscribe if you can, because it really supports us here at the CBRX and me. And I'm glad you are around. So until next week, when we see more potential eliminations and city flips, we'll see you next time.